flipping back the calendar to highlight yesteryear's finest while exploring the vast archives in cinema history. This is the Movie Review Rewind podcast on Nashville Movie Dispatch. My name's Stoney, and I like to party. And this is the Movie Review Rewind podcast here on Nashville Movie Dispatch. Of course, Stoney Keeley, at Stoney Keeley on Twitter, at SoBro's Network on all major social media platforms, and all of our work reviewing and discussing the film industry up on NashvilleMovieDispatch.substack.com. Got a special guest for you today. We are going to be talking about Hot Rod. I didn't even look to see what year Hot Rod came out. That's how behind I am. I think it was 2008.
Okay, I would say 2008 or 2009. But
2007.
Hey, outdoor SoBro here, and I also like to party.
I forgot that this movie is where that bit came from. And for me, that was a part of the viewing experience, going back and reliving this film. Mm-hmm. I haven't watched it in a long time. It was one that I remember loving when I first saw it, and I bought the DVD and I wore it out the summer that I had it, but I haven't really watched it since. And comedy has been a popular topic of discussion this year because it just feels like they don't really make comedies like they used to anymore. And the last one that I saw that really felt like a throwback to this era of comedy was Friendship with Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. But it did kind of stir that conversation back up in the circle, so to speak. Yeah. And it felt like an opportune time to go back and relive this movie. And it was kind of like, man, I forgot that's where this came from. That's where that came from. I've been drinking green tea all GD day. I go to church every GD Sunday. You're going to bring the demons out in me. I mean, it's just highly quotable. Yeah. But for you, what was the experience like years later, kind of going back and reliving this film?
So before I jump into that, I just want to say, with the comedy talk that make the movies anymore, and you could like argue, or someone might argue, I wouldn't, that it's just the generations have changed and the kids have a different sense of humor or something nowadays. I say kids, young adults, whatever. Yeah. But this past year, maybe 2 years ago, my wife's younger sister was a teenager at the time. I'd come home and was like, me and my friends watched this old movie. It was so funny, so stupid, so funny. We loved it. Like, what was it? Hot Rod. It's like, that's not an old movie. I was like, well, I guess kind of. Yeah. But it was like, they don't have, like, it's not like when we were like watching one of our parents' film they thought was funny back in the day. There's not many. There's some old classics, but like this still holds up. It's not that old. Of course, it's going to hold up in my brain, but like the kids are starved for good comedy. Yeah,
and I think the difference, because I do think it's worth pointing out the generational discussion, like the general, I don't want to, it seems a bit extreme to call this a generational war, but the idea that, well, the comedies of my era were funnier than the comedies today, that was relevant back then when we were talking like Will Ferrell and Andy Samberg versus like Adam Sandler and Chris Rock and versus Eddie Murphy and all that. It's different because they were actually making comedies back then. Now, if you Google, because I did a little research, I wrote a piece for Nashville Movie Dispatch earlier this year about Friendship being kind of a shot in the arm for the comedy genre. And an exercise I performed to write that, I would just Google top comedies for 2024, and it's like rom-coms that come up. It's like Transformers movies. That's like Marvel movies that, are superhero flicks that have some humorous bits shoehorned in, but they're not making films like Hot Rod anymore. And if they are, it's few and far between. Whereas it felt like when I was a teenager or I was in college when Hot Rod came out, back in those days, it was like you could go to the theater any given week and you would have an option there. Yeah. Not saying that they were putting out comedies every week, but like you could go to the theater and like Hot Rod would be showing for 4 or 5 weeks in a row. And then, Anchorman would be out.
Talladega Nights.
Talladega Nights, Semi-Pro, like all this stuff, Napoleon Dynamite even. There was always something that satiated that appetite for humor.
We had a menu.
Yeah. And nowadays, it's just not the case. And some of it doesn't hold up very well. There have been movies that, through this podcast and drinking with Stephen McCash, that we've gone back and watched, and it's not the same. Like, I think about how funny I thought Dude, Where's My Car is as a kid, which I would have been, I guess not a kid, like 14 years old when it came out, thinking it was funny, and then watching it again 21 years later was like, this is a hot pile of shit.
Yeah.
This is not good. Even stuff like, I'm a big fan of the Broken Lizard guys.
Oh, yeah.
But even going back and watching Super Troopers, you're kind of like, yeah, this is pretty sophomoric, juvenile. But
it was cutting edge at the time.
It was cutting edge at the time, yeah. And the larger point being that there was real variety back then. People were trying. People were taking risks in comedy. And it just doesn't feel like that's the case anymore. I don't know. Even thinking about Friendship, even it had aspects that were a little deeper than surface level comedy. It did kind of feel there was a sort of loneliness to the film. There was it was a well-made film too. I mean, produced by A24. You see that logo go up before the movie, you know you're going to get something original, unique. But even that, like, doesn't feel the same as what was made with like Hot Rod and Talladega Nights in those movies.
Yeah. So, like, I've seen it, frequently over the years. And it's been a while since I've watched it. You might see bits and pieces. You just try to remember the one-liners, which is a lost art, But when it just kind of opened up and you had that opening scene, the first jump, and like there's several points here. Like, when this came out, I wasn't living a much different life than Rod. As a a lifetime motorcycle racer. When I was younger, then I was also working with some film groups and stuff, music videos and small movies and stuff. Like, in a lot of these situations, they need a motorcycle rider. So I was like this aspiring stunt rider for films, and I just, because of my unwillingness to go to a different market, like I wasn't going anywhere with it. So it was just kind of, when something was in Nashville, they might call me and I might be able to do something. So I was like modifying my dirt bikes to make them look like apocalypse situations and stuff. And like I was out riding and we were like, do a take. And like,
that sounds fun though.
Yeah, it was fun. And then like also seeing movies that are too serious and you've got these stunt setups and explosions or jumps, and it's always like, and the wrong sound effects. It's like some of this stunt stuff in the movies, they don't mix it together. But then in Hot Rod, they didn't even like try to fake it. It was just that first opening jump. It was like, he's going to jump over the ice cream truck. It was like, he's not going fast enough. And they just complete ragdoll with a ragdoll. And then they're like, oh, it's okay. And just vomiting. Like, it was so violent right off the bat. And you can't help but just bend over laughing the first time you see it.
Yeah. And it really sets the tone for the film too. It's like, this is what this movie is about to be. But I feel like that's a testament in part to Andy Samberg being, I don't know, so expressive. And aside from the way this was written, it's hard for me to picture anybody else in that role. I mean, he looks and plays it kind of goofy.
Yeah.
But it is the stuff like the way he looks when he's puking, just violently puking, is hilarious.
Yeah.
And the way that scene is shot, where you just see his body go limp and fly across the ice cream truck and just hit the other ramp and fold. It's like,
and when they shot that, like that was, I don't know how many takes that would have taken, but that might have been one. And then be like, we can't replicate that. That was perfect.
Yeah. It was so good, man.
Yeah.
And the physical comedy aspect of it is something that I think is, it can be tricky in a comedy, because I think in some instances it can go too far and just be a little like, okay,
Mm.
this is over the top here. It's too much. It's too dialed up. I think the physical comedy is dialed up in Hot Rod, but I don't think it ever feels silly in a way. It's silly, but not. It's silly, but in a way that makes sense to the story. It feels weird talking about Hot Rod in this fashion,
Yeah.
but I never felt the physical comedy was forced.
No.
It felt very natural.
You felt like that was their lifestyle because you followed
Yeah.
them around. Because Letterkenny has kind of done a similar thing with this of just young adults
Yeah.
with not a lot of opportunity, things to do, just kicking it in the parking lot,
Yeah.
kicking it at the hot dog stand, not causing trouble, just dreaming.
It's like we all at that age, around here anyway, everybody had their thing like we're gonna try and make it.
Yeah.
Like we weren't doing stunts and motorcycle work, but we
Yeah.
were doing backyard wrestling.
Yeah.
We were, throwing each other off of trampolines and ladders and all that, and thought like, yeah, this is gonna be our
Yeah.
ticket out of this
With
town.
the handheld camera.
With the
Like,
handheld camera. Yeah. This is a production.
Yeah.
This is
And the
this is-
fireworks.
the fireworks. Yeah. There was one show I remember, our main event went past midnight and we had fireworks for the winner. And so the match happens, guys raising the championship belt. It's past midnight and I made the call. I was like, I bought these fucking fireworks. I'm shooting them off. So we start shooting Roman candles and the big mortars and everything. It's like 12:20 in the morning. And the final words on the broadcast, I say with my air quotes, was just somebody behind the camera. As we're signing off, you just hear Stoney's neighbors are going to be pissed. But we got those fireworks off because that was our ticket out. We were all a little hot rod back in the day. But the physical comedy, to get back to that, I think it's paced out where it's not just one on top of the other. And it feels like a barrage where it's like, okay, this is just what this movie is. That's not the case with Hot Rod. There's some nice pacing. There's a variety of comedy in this film. You go from the physical stuff to like the timing of some of the dialogue, the chemistry between the characters. It's got a great, funny cast. Even like Will Arnett in a supporting role as, oh gosh, I can't remember the character's name. Isla Fisher's character, her boyfriend, where he's just like, Sullivan, you chode.
Yeah.
I forgot. Oh, that's where that came from.
Oh, you a flicking the dick.
Yeah. It's like when he runs over the possum, he's like, I got to tell Sullivan about that. He's going to be so stoked. Like you just ran over a possum.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, but you get those kind of moments in between the bouts of physical comedy. And to me, that was something that I think another film, Pineapple Express, did pretty well, where it was really stupid, over the top funny, but it paced the physical comedy out in a way that didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like this is the bit, this is the ticket to make this movie funny. But like the fight scene in the bathroom when they bust down the door and Danny McBride's head goes through the sink and the sink comes off the wall. Funny stuff, but then they kind of ground it and the humor is more in the jokes in between. But I was curious if you had any favorite scenes involving the physical comedy in Hot Rod.
Man, there's so many. It felt like each transition kind of, there were some slower moments, but it always like brought you back. Like when he comes in, you're like, he knows he loves and hates his stepdad Frank, but he comes in late at night and is like, I know you're sleeping, Frank, but I'm gonna get that money for you. And he turns around and Frank's behind and was like, who are you talking to? And it's just you're like, oh, this is sweet. It's like, oh shit, it just gets you right off guard. But I don't know, man. There's so many, like the one-liners are great. Like I think they impacted. I don't know if you're going to talk about that separately, but like there's so many one-liners like expanded out of this like culturally for years. And I think we talked already earlier that we forgot that's where it came from. But like the what and whiskey was like people said that all the time.
Yeah.
And then cool beans. Cool beans was a big thing. But some of my favorites that I had to remember: never sneak up on a man who's been in a chemical fire.
Yeah, I like. I jotted down quite a few. Hey guys, I got to go drop some dumpage. Hey guys, I found some fireworks in the bathroom. You want to light them off? Bill Hader's character at some point is trying to quote someone and just says, "He who is resistant to change is destined to perish."
But then right after that, they were filling up the pool, and Danny, because I wrote this one down, it was right after that quote. He raised the hose up and sprayed Bill Hader in the face and goes, "Don't ever how to tell me." He said, "Don't ever tell me how to live my life again."
It's the same scene.
Yeah,
the same scene when they're filling up the pool. Excuse me. That Danny McBride yells at Bill Hader's little sister and just says, "Hey, little girl, I don't want cherry. It upsets my stomach."
I used to say that all the time to my wife or any female. I was like, "Hey, little girl."
Hey, little girl. The I've been drinking green tea all GD day. That's man, that's funny.
And what that made that scene so great was like it was like action. We failed, and then it just came out of nowhere.
Because the guy, and first of all, when he hits the trailer and it busts out on the other side, is so funny. I'm laughing at that, and then they're trying to assess the situation.
Yeah, you can't even like get to the next point before a fight breaks out for no reason.
The guy comes out of his house, pissed off, says something. Danny McBride's character says, "I've been drinking green tea all GD day," starts beating him with a traffic cone, and then takes his hat and says, "This is my hat now." And then that's the scene. That's the scene. We're on to the next thing.
Looking back, there was at least one thing early on, and it was like I wrote down here, it's like I missed the ability to hang out in a driveway and just drink beer. Sitting in a chair, hang in the driveway.
Yeah.
One thing was like when they were doing that, Danny McBride was saying something about his dreams, and I keep having this dream where they come back and all these wizards or these elves' wives trying to have sex with me. But you can watch Bill Hader go to take a drink because he starts cracking a smile. He's about to lose it. And you could just see it there. But
I would be curious to know how much of this movie was actually written. And how much was just them dicking around on set and making the final cut.
Gotta be. But back to the driveway beers, I'm like, I actually do that a lot because with my kids, just like, whatever, I'm just going to sit here.
Yeah.
But it's, without the humor.
That was the thing, like growing up out in the country, I didn't have that where like kids got together, hung out in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. There weren't too many. I grew up in what was essentially like a random cul-de-sac out in the middle of the woods back then. There were only a couple of kids my age, never really hung out the way that they do in Hot Rod. We damn sure didn't have the means to go down to the convenience store and hang out in the parking lot. I don't know. I'm picturing just 4 teenagers in the Suggs Creek parking lot. Like wasn't a thing back then. So there was a part of me that, now that you bring it up, is kind of envious of kids that did get to do that. What else do I have? I've said, "Sullivan, you chode." Maybe I'll get a box of dong bags so we can knock boots later. That was a good one. He also tells her when she says something about wanting to go to the stunt show or whatever, he says, "Well, guess what? You're embarrassing yourself." Yeah. And the whole babe wait thing, I had forgotten about that. Wait. Babe, wait. Babe. No. Babe, no. Like just out of nowhere, this stuff happens. When I'm pretty sure, okay, so there's a line where, when we set up the film's like climax, Rod's preparing to do the big stunt that's going to raise all the money, and he stands in front of the crowd and just loudly says, "Who wants to see me do a big ass stunt?" I'm pretty sure I dropped that in a backyard wrestling match from the top of a ladder. Yeah. I got on top of a ladder and I yelled, "Who wants to see me do a big ass stunt?" And then I did an elbow drop off of it, which I had forgotten about until I saw this movie. And again, was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I also think this movie was the first time I heard the term boner police.
Oh.
And I can't remember the guy's name. He's in a lot of comedies. He was in like the Anchorman stuff, the poop guy from Anchorman.
He was the announcer.
He was the announcer. Yeah. The AM radio bit. Yeah. I forgot about that too. The AM radio bit. And he says, "If the boner police are here, I demand a lawyer." Yeah. And I don't think I'd heard Boner Police
Yeah.
before that, but I've been using it ever since. So Hot Rod contributed to that. There was one quote from Rod that I thought, oh man, that's actually a bar. At one point he says, "Life is pain and we got to scrape the joy out of every bit." I was like, damn, what business does that have being in this movie?
Yeah.
But I think that's part of also what makes it funny is that you have stuff like that feels like a drastic tonal shift out of place. And that in and of itself, I think is funny.
Yeah. I love when you first get introduced to Isla Fisher's character as the neighbor kind of thing. And she's walking up. I think he says something like, "Hey, you look really cute." She's like, "What'd you say?" He's like, "I think you look really stupid." What did he say? Yeah, I don't know. You look really stupid. Something like that.
I love the scene where he tries to impress. He's trying to impress her and like lure her over to his garage
with the mirror,
and he tries to look like he knows what he's doing, but he's just beating an engine with a hammer.
I replicated that in me and my wife's engagement video. I had a buddy.
Really?
And I don't think I realized it at the time, but now thinking back, it's like, oh yeah, that's exactly where I got that from. Just subconsciously, I had a buddy in there working on a suspension, and he's just hitting it with a hammer and the thing. I was like, yeah, it's totally from Hot Rod.
I laughed so hard at that the first time I saw it. That was because it's just so stupid. It's like, I don't know. It's one of those things like in Rod's mind, he's like, I'm going to look like I know, like a strong man fixing this engine.
Yeah.
But everybody knows that fixing an engine does not look like just beating it with a hammer kind of deal. That still rules. I like when they're like trying to prep him for holding his breath and they end up like nearly drowning him. They just hold him under
39 seconds.
It's 39 seconds and he's out. When he sets himself on fire and runs through that sign at the kid's birthday party, and then it just looks like pure chaos with people just running around. That was good.
Explosion at the corporate event. And the guy goes, "You're a terrible stuntman," and he pretends like he can't hear him. I've used that a bunch of times. Like, what's that? Oh, no, I heard you. It's just a terrible thing to say to somebody.
Yeah. Oh, man. And then this big inspirational scene. Everybody's walking through the streets. People are singing. And then a guy just walks up to a storefront with a trash can and just throws it through the window. And then people are like beating cars with crowbars and just a full-scale riot breaks out. And then they get out of Dodge and they turn around talking about how crazy it is. But Danny McBride's holding a TV and he's just like, yeah, I don't really know, how things got so out of control. That got a little dodgy there for a minute kind of deal. That was pretty funny. I landed on this film being like elevated Jackass.
Yeah.
It's kind of
scripted Jackass.
Scripted, elevated Jackass.
Yeah.
But it's actually, to me, I think the surprising part for my rewatch of this was going back and realizing that there are some actual like relatable qualities to this story that if you can set the silly stuff aside, it's actually like a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
You have, the seeking his stepfather's approval, that sort of deal. Liking a girl, but not really knowing how to talk to her. Social outcasts kind of finding their way in life. It did kind of feel like a roundabout way of sort of telling a certain sort of coming of age story. And we don't have to get too deep about Hot Rod, but I do feel like the best comedies really do hit you with the gut busting humor, but they always have a certain heart to them as well. And I do think Hot Rod is one of those movies that if you look close enough, there are some elements that make it a really just good human interest
Oh
story.
yeah, absolutely. It is. It's very well rounded. But I think back to what you said. I didn't think about it being a coming of age because they're adults, but they are essentially children.
Yeah.
But and that's what makes it funny. But at the same time, like that's where I think it was relatable to me because I was an adult. I didn't
Yeah.
feel like an adult, and I
Mhm.
was in a very similar situation. Whereas people were coming home from school, from college, already getting nice jobs, stuff like that, and I'm like, dude, I'm just over here having fun. Like that looks
Yeah.
terrible. And then I'm like
Yeah.
realizing, oh, maybe I'm behind, but also don't care. Like I'm living life.
It was the same way for me. I remember like my father used to tell me all the time. He's like, "Man, reality's going to bite you in the ass soon. Like you got to straighten up." 2007 I would have been my third year of college. And so it was a time when I think if I had been a little more responsible back then, it's lining up internships, making relationships in the professional world, that sort of thing. But no, instead I was just doing what I had to do to get through my courses, coming home on the weekend and doing backyard wrestling or going out and like just doing dumb shit all the time with my friends. And so when it did come time, I got my degree, I got out of college, and it did come time to enter the real world. I did kind of realize at that point, like, shit, I should have been, I should have been doing a little bit more to prepare for this moment.
Could have been.
Yeah,
should have been.
Fair enough. It did take me 2 years before I found a real job out of college.
It took me 10 years to graduate college. I wasn't enrolled the whole time, but I started down the normal route, and then I stopped, and I went back later, and had a lot of fun and experience with it. But now, in the real world, nowadays, it's when your colleagues are 10 years younger, and you're like, okay. I think it's something I try not to dwell on because I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't trade it because I just went a different path and I had a lot of fun. And I look at some of these kids' lives, I'm like, dude, you're already in a stressful, stupid spot.
That's true.
You're not even having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like things, I always had that sense in the back of my mind when my dad would be like, you got to get a real job and stop dicking around with your friends all the time. Reality's going to bite you in the ass. I did still at the time have that sense of things aren't going to be like this forever. So I do want to enjoy what time that I have left.
Yeah.
So I didn't think it was going to take me 2 years to find a job out of college. That's not the bill of goods they sell you when you go to college.
In your defense, that was a very heavy recession time.
Well, touche. Yeah, graduating in 2008 was quite difficult, But yeah, I think that's part of what makes Hot Rod the total package is that you do have the chemistry between the characters, you do have the physical comedy, but at the end of the day, it is still a pretty relatable story for someone that, I would have been 21 years old when this came out. So it's kind of one of those films. I'm curious, like if you don't see it at that time in your life, does it hit as hard? Still holding up surprisingly well. Like I think, even if I had never seen it before, I probably still would have enjoyed this movie.
100%. I would still be laughing. But, at the time, some of those characters had just the actors had come onto the scene, but, we kind of knew them through Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Danny McBride was one of those early ones, but he had been in a couple things already. But
I think this was the first time I had seen him, but he did the Foot Fist way before Hot Rod, wasn't it?
Yes, but I didn't see that before. I can't recall what I saw him in before Hot Rod. But I knew I already liked his style and his acting and what he brings to the table. I can't remember what would have been. We'd have to look at the Danny McBride map.
Let me see if I can look his filmography up. We're doing some live producing here.
There was something I wanted to point out. Oh, I didn't count them, and it might be some math out there, or if it actually counts as a montage or not. But usually, this is like an '80s fun film in a modern era, but like because it has a lot of the '80s elements to it with the montage scene. Although this had multiple montage scenes, and I think that's what's fun. It was like this continual build up, but usually it's like one montage getting to the climax, but this one, like, it started off with montages. It's fun.
I'm one of the notes that I made was like the music is oddly pretty good in this movie.
Mhm.
It's pretty good, pretty consistent throughout. They do listen to some 80s tunes in this film that I think kind of, I don't know, enhance it. It's
Mhm.
like you think about it, like the details in this movie. I come back to being surprised watching it again in September of 2025 and being like, and they really put some thought into this.
Yeah.
This is a detailed film if you really examine it for all of its parts. I've only got a couple of more notes to get to. I do want to ask, is there is there a particular character that's your favorite from this film?
I just said about Danny McBride. I've always liked Danny McBride.
Yeah.
Rico is great in that. Just from the humor aspect of what I like and what is in there, I really like Rico. I really like Bill Hader's character. I feel like he always brings something to the table that's really funny and awkward. But he was also like kind of professional, had his day job at the ice rink or the skating rink, whatever. So like, but it's also like he's so silly, but at the same time, like he's doing math on a calculator with, so it's just weird stuff. But for my general perspective, I feel like I have to like identify with Rod just because I was in a similar boat, chasing something that was never going to happen. Didn't have the funds, didn't have the talent, didn't have the help, but I still did. I tried it anyways, and on two wheels, just like Rod.
This is not a popular movie among critics.
Fuck critics.
It is.
Can we swear in this podcast?
Yeah, of course. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 39%. Brazen silliness and a few humorous set pieces, but it's far too inconsistent to satisfy all but the least demanding slapstick lovers. Again, like if you don't have the sense of humor, it's going to be a drastically different viewing experience. And sometimes I think comedies are what the critics struggle with the most, because I do think it's something, if you don't relate to it, it can be off-putting.
I feel like this one crosses boundaries too, though, because a lot, like we were talking about earlier with Tim Robinson. My wife can't stand that type of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Now, Hot Rod, the copy that we own of the DVD, it's my wife's copy.
Oh, how about that?
Like,
there you go.
It's something we both enjoyed.
Yeah. It wasn't a success at the box office.
Right.
It cost $25 million to make this movie, which kind of surprises me. And it only made $14.4 million during its run.
Well, I would say it's probably, I wouldn't say it's a cult hit. It didn't come back big.
I'm sure it made some money on physical home release.
We still had time for physical media.
Yeah. So I'd be curious to see if it.
But what it did for some of those careers.
Oh man!
And not just the cast, but behind the scenes, probably.
So Danny McBride had done The Foot Fist Way in 2006 and a movie called All the Real Girls, which is a romantic drama written and directed by David Gordon Green, who he's worked with a lot, starring Paul Schneider, Zooey Deschanel, Shea Whigham, and Patricia Clarkson. Never heard of this movie. The Foot Fist Way, I'm with you. I never went back and saw that one. I know that's one that Brandon.
I did. I've seen it.
Oh, you've seen it?
I didn't see it before this.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. That's one Brandon's really high on too. It was like his introduction to Danny McBride, and then he would go on to do. He was in The Heartbreak Kid, the Ben Stiller flick with one of the. Oh, it was both of the Farrelly brothers. I never saw that one either. But then he would go on to do Drillbit Taylor, Pineapple Express, Tropic Thunder.
So Hot Rod was his first then?
Hot Rod, it was The Foot Fist Way and then Hot Rod.
So I guess that was my introduction to Danny McBride then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Land of the Lost would come in 2009.
Wow, that was so close together.
Yeah. I mean, and then just...
when was Eastbound and Down? That would have been...
Eastbound and Down, I think, was 09. Yeah, 2009 to 2013.
Okay. Yeah.
Vice Principals in 2016, and then The Righteous Gemstones today. So, yeah. I thought, talking about the surprising storytelling aspect of Hot Rod, dangling something out there and circling back to it. I thought the ending was just chef's kiss, where it's a payoff for a scene where he's doing like Tai Chi by the lake with Isla Fisher's character. And he asks her about a move that makes a man crap his pants. And it seems like just like a throwaway, funny moment where she performs the move on him. He shits himself and then pretends that he doesn't, but he's just got to leave. But I thought it was a really nice payoff to have that be the closing moment of the film when he actually executes the move on Frank, and Frank shits himself in the driveway, and then that's it, end scene. I thought that was a really nice, smart callback to a seed that they had planted earlier in the film.
Yeah. How about another thing too that I bet was really cool for the cast at the time, and it kind of was underwhelming in there, but she was a staple was his mother, but it was Sissy Spacek.
Yeah,
like just to be in this situation is so funny.
Yeah, and even, oh man, I can't think of Frank's name. Even, he is a talented actor. Yeah. Gosh, what's his name now? Ian McShane.
Yeah,
that's right.
Also, too, like, harp on this every once in a while, but it's funny. They're in Washington State in this film. Like it's I think it's said, at least, if not just the license plates and all that. But Danny McBride could be a transplant, whatever. He's a Southern guy. He's got that accent. That's what makes it funny when he gets aggressive. But the guy he gets in a fight with the trailer, he comes out and just says most redneck Southern. I'm like, what? Why is all the aggressive guys have to fucking talk like this?
Yeah.
But
the hell's going on out here? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's great. Where do you think Hot Rod fits in the comedies of its era? Yeah, I don't know if you could do a Mount Rushmore off the top of your head, but
you'd have to narrow it down for years, I guess. But
we'll just say 2000 to 2010, that range, because I think I do put Step Brothers up there. I think I go Pineapple Express. Probably put Anchorman in there. And then I think I might put Hot Rod in that fourth spot.
I'm gonna
old school.
2000 it's a big range.
Yeah, when they still made these once every couple of months, there'd be a good comedy out for sure.
I know I'm gonna miss some. I did like Pineapple Express just because that next level of quality was there. It just was a little bit different, more violent. Just the story. It was pretty original, So I really do like that one. But I think my number one on Mount Rushmore during those years, just because of the time I was at in life, the topic, and just the joy it brought me, and it still brings to my family, is Talladega Nights. Like
Talladega Nights,
it's got to be up there.
I think Superbad would be up there too.
Superbad for sure.
Yeah,
there's too many.
I know
it was such a good era.
It was, and
Knocked Up was a great film.
Yeah.
I don't know if Hot Rod would be on my Mount Rushmore just because there's so many there. Off the top of our head, what we can remember right now, I'd put it on there.
I think I mean, Step Brothers, Anchorman, and Pineapple Express are three of my four favorite comedies ever.
Yeah.
And I was a big Dumb and Dumber fan too.
Yeah.
That would be my comedy Mount Rushmore. Yeah. Dumb and Dumber, obviously 90s flick. So if I take that one out, I think it would come down to Superbad versus Hot Rod for me.
Yeah, that's a good.
And I think Superbad is probably the more widely considered Hallmark comedy of the decade kind of deal. But I don't know, man. I think Hot Rod might have it.
I don't know. It's close. It's almost like its own category for me, I think. Like when I think of Hot Rod, like just those other ones, like I see them as films. Like Hot Rod was like a way of life for me. Like not that I'm putting it higher than the others. It's just different for me. I don't know.
Well, that's gonna do it. I got to the end of my notes. You got anything else? Empty the clip on.
Man, I feel like I've got. I think one thing that we didn't hit on, which I thought was hilarious because you didn't really see it coming. You knew something was going to happen, but when he's in bubble wrap and he's like when they're training, and he's running through the trees. He's looking around, and then Rico hits him with the van with the mattress strapped to the front.
I also like the scene, going back to the physical comedy aspect of it, where he's like, I need to go to my quiet place, and then it just shows him out in the woods.
My quiet place. And just drinking a beer and smoking
a cigarette, and then he starts dancing, running around the forest, doing like these absurd gymnastic moves, and then he just hits his foot on a log, and you just see the music, just an abrupt cut, and you just hear shit.
Yeah.
And he flips and starts tumbling down the side of the mountain.
You know, I had that scene in my engagement video as well. I think subconsciously I stole so much.
Recreated,
and the whole thing was on 2 wheels too. Like I think I just made like my own little romantic hot rod show.
There you go.
Dang.
That's a good note for us to end on. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Movie Review Rewind podcast. Again, all of our work covering movies is up at NashvilleMovieDispatch.substack.com. He's Outdoor SoBro. I'm Big Natural Stoney Keeley. And until next time, you stay classy, moviegoers.